Hey coin collectors, welcome to Old Coin Vault. Every year, ordinary people unknowingly spend or throw away coins that collectors later buy for tens of thousands of dollars. A single forgotten penny has changed lives, paid off debts, and shocked entire families after being discovered in nothing more than an old jar of spare change. The question is, what if the next life-changing coin is already sitting in your pocket? First up, the story that stunned many collectors did not begin in a museum or a millionaire's vault. It began when an ordinary-looking Lincoln cent surfaced in the marketplace and eventually changed hands for a staggering six-figure amount after experts confirmed that it possessed extraordinary characteristics hidden from the casual eye. Stories like that have fueled the dreams of collectors across America for decades, because the difference between a common penny and an exceptional one can be almost invisible until careful examination reveals something remarkable. That is exactly why the 1951 wheat penny with the San Francisco S mint mark deserves far more attention than its humble appearance suggests, carrying a history that transforms a simple piece of copper into a fascinating detective story. At first glance, the 1951 S wheat penny seems like nothing more than another old coin featuring the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and two graceful wheat stalks framing the reverse. The design, created by Victor David Brenner decades earlier, had become a symbol recognized by generations of Americans, surviving changing fashions and changing economies while quietly passing from pocket to pocket. Yet by 1951, the nation was entering a new industrial age filled with expanding factories, booming cities, and rapidly advancing technology, making millions of coins essential for everyday commerce. Most people spent these pennies without a second thought, unaware that some examples would eventually become the focus of passionate searches by specialists determined to uncover the finest survivors. The San Francisco Mint added another layer of intrigue. Although it struck millions of 1951 cents, its production was smaller than the Philadelphia and Denver issues of the same year, making the S variety particularly appealing to collectors today. During the busy minting operations of the early 1950s, dies experienced heavy use, maintenance schedules were demanding, and equipment was expected to produce enormous quantities with remarkable speed. When dies wore down or required polishing, subtle differences could appear on the coins they created, leaving tiny clues that decades later would become the subject of magnified study. What once looked like an insignificant manufacturing detail could become the very feature that separates an ordinary cent from an extraordinary collectible. That fascination grows even stronger when mint errors enter the story. Collectors hunt for repunched mint marks, noticeable letter doubling, unusual strike characteristics, off-center impressions, die cracks, and other production anomalies that escaped into circulation. Every error represents a brief moment inside the mint, when machinery, timing, and chance combine to create something never intentionally planned. Instead of reducing desirability, these mistakes often increase excitement because they cannot simply be reproduced on demand. The result is a treasure hunt where thousands of normal coins may be searched before one unusual specimen appears, turning patience into the collector's greatest weapon. Only after understanding that background does the value discussion become truly meaningful. Many impressive 1951 S wheat pennies with notable characteristics and exceptional preservation have reached around $5,000 through auction or specialized collector transactions, proving that condition and originality matter enormously. Move another step higher, and examples displaying rare combinations of outstanding surfaces, blazing original red color, and highly desirable mint characteristics have climbed into the tens of thousands of dollars. At the highest rung of this up-price ladder, truly extraordinary discoveries, coins possessing exceptional rarity factors, elite grading, or remarkable attributes recognized by advanced collectors, have been associated with private sale or auction outcomes approaching $120,000, demonstrating how dramatically value can change when rarity meets intense demand. Some of the most unforgettable stories involve missed opportunities. A coin sits unnoticed inside a coffee can for decades before being spent on a snack. Another remains forgotten in a dresser drawer until an estate is sorted by relatives who nearly exchange it for face value. Then there are the fortunate discoveries that change everything. A collector carefully examining inherited pennies under proper lighting notices a tiny doubled letter or an unusual mint mark and suddenly realizes that what looked like pocket change deserves professional attention. These moments create the emotional heartbeat of coin collecting because every old jar, every family album, and every forgotten cigar box carries the possibility of revealing an overlooked survivor. If you ever examine a 1951 wheat penny, resist the temptation to focus only on the date. Study its weight using an accurate scale. Observe whether the metal color remains natural and original. Inspect the strike alignment to see if design elements are centered properly. Evaluate the rim for unusual expansion or deformation, and carefully search for letter doubling or other unusual features using magnification. Collectors also compare surface quality, luster, and tiny details that inexperienced eyes may overlook. The smallest characteristic can completely change the story of a coin, which is why experienced numismatists spend hours studying pieces that others dismiss within seconds. The greatest mistake a lucky finder can make is rushing to sell after reading sensational online headlines or assuming every old penny is a fortune. Instead, preserve the coin carefully, avoid cleaning it, document what you observe, and seek authentication from a respected professional grading service or qualified expert before making any decision. The 1951 wheat penny reminds us that history often hides in plain sight, disguised as something ordinary until knowledge reveals its true significance. Somewhere in America, another overlooked example may still be waiting in silence, carrying a story capable of astonishing its owner and proving once again that extraordinary discoveries sometimes begin with the smallest coin in the pocket. Next up, we have 1957 D mintmark wheat penny. At first glance, the 1957 D wheat penny looks like nothing more than another old copper coin that has quietly survived decades in drawers, jars, and forgotten collections across America. But history has a habit of disguising remarkable stories behind ordinary appearances. Millions of people have handled this little cent without a second thought, never imagining that a coin costing only 1 cent to spend could someday become the centerpiece of an astonishing collector's tale. Hidden beneath its familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln and its simple wheat ears is a narrative connected to American craftsmanship, changing economics, and unexpected discoveries that continue to excite treasure hunters today. The greatest surprises rarely announce themselves, and that is exactly why this penny deserves a closer look before anyone dismisses it as common pocket change. Long before the 1957 D penny entered circulation, the Lincoln cent itself had already changed the course of American coinage history when it debuted in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, becoming the first regular circulating United States coin to feature the portrait of a real historical figure rather than the symbolic Lady Liberty. The decision was revolutionary, but the celebration quickly transformed into controversy because designer Victor David Brenner proudly placed his initials, VDB, on the reverse. Public criticism exploded, newspapers debated the issue, and officials rapidly removed the initials, creating one of the most famous episodes in numismatic history. Although the 1957 D was struck decades later, every Lincoln wheat penny still carried the legacy of that dramatic beginning, reminding collectors that even the smallest coin can emerge from political arguments, artistic pride, and national symbolism. The Denver Mint, identified by the tiny D beneath the date, produced enormous quantities of cents during the booming post-war era. Yet sheer mintage numbers never guarantee that every surviving example is ordinary. Time has a way of separating the average from the exceptional. Coins that escaped circulation with blazing original surfaces, razor-sharp details, and nearly flawless preservation became increasingly difficult to locate as decades passed. Others developed unusual striking characteristics that transformed routine production pieces into fascinating collector targets. This strange contrast creates suspense for anyone sorting through inherited coin jars, because while thousands may appear identical at first glance, subtle differences invisible to the casual observer can dramatically alter desirability among serious enthusiasts. Even more intriguing are the mysterious striking errors and die varieties that keep experts examining 1957D wheat pennies under powerful magnification. Slight die misalignments, repunched mint marks on older issues, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, dramatic die cracks, and unusual metal coloration can all elevate interest depending on severity and authenticity. Some collectors spend years studying the exact relationship between lettering, date placement, rim formation, and Lincoln's profile because tiny manufacturing imperfections often tell the hidden story of the minting process itself. The excitement comes from uncertainty. Every coin represents another possibility, another puzzle, another chance that an overlooked detail escaped quality control decades ago and survived unnoticed until today. Stories from the collecting community only deepen the mystery because many legendary discoveries began with complete indifference. Families cleaning attics have unknowingly donated valuable coins, children have spent collectible cents on candy, and estate sales have scattered hidden treasures among boxes of ordinary household items. Experienced collectors often describe moments when they nearly overlooked a coin before a second glance revealed extraordinary luster or an unexpected striking characteristic. Those near misses fuel the passion that drives thousands of people to continue searching through old rolls and forgotten collections, convinced that history occasionally rewards patience with breathtaking discoveries that transform an ordinary afternoon into a lifelong memory. Only after understanding this remarkable background does the conversation turn toward value, where the price ladder becomes increasingly dramatic depending on rarity, preservation, and verified error type. Attractive high-grade examples may command impressive premiums, while exceptional certified specimens with remarkable eye appeal or significant mint errors have been associated with auction results or private sales reaching around $5,000, $15,000, $30,000, and even $60,000 in extraordinary circumstances. At the very highest end, exceptionally rare combinations of condition and authenticated error characteristics have fueled discussions and reported transactions approaching or exceeding $120,000. These figures do not represent ordinary circulated coins, but rather the rarest examples that combine scarcity, elite preservation, and collector demand into a perfect storm of value. Because of these possibilities, careful inspection becomes essential before making any decision. Study the metal tone and determine whether the original reddish copper brilliance remains or whether environmental damage has altered the surface. Examine the strike clarity by observing Lincoln's hair, facial features, lettering, and the wheat stalk details, since sharp definition often reflects superior quality. Inspect the rim for dents, flattening, or irregularities, and pay close attention to die alignment by checking whether the design appears properly centered and balanced on both sides. Magnification and good lighting reveal details invisible to the naked eye, and patience often proves more valuable than excitement when evaluating a potentially important coin. Perhaps the greatest mistake a person can make is rushing to sell a promising discovery based solely on online speculation or quick offers from opportunistic buyers. The smartest collectors understand that authentication and professional grading provide confidence for both owner and future purchaser, separating genuine rarities from hopeful assumptions. The 1957D wheat penny reminds us that history sometimes hides inside objects so ordinary that millions ignore them every day, waiting for someone curious enough to look beyond the surface. Somewhere in an old coffee can, forgotten drawer, or inherited collection may rest a humble cent whose extraordinary story has not yet been recognized, proving once again that remarkable treasures often arrive disguised as the smallest pieces of America's past.